Welcome to She's Evolving. I'm Elena, a medical endocrinologist, and for over 25 years, I've been studying the intricate dance of hormones and how they shape the lives of women. But today, we aren't just looking at charts or blood tests. We're looking at the reflection in the mirror and the pressure that often clouds what we see there.
And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. My days are spent navigating the landscapes of the human heart and mind. Lately, those landscapes have been dominated by a single, exhausting question: how can I stay young? Today, we're peeling back the layers of that question. We're talking about the pressure to remain forever 25 when you're actually 50, and how we can collectively decide to stop participating in a race that has no finish line. It's a heavy topic, Julia, but such a necessary one. If you've ever felt like your birthdays were becoming something to hide rather than celebrate, or if you felt the exhaustion of trying to please a society that demands you never change, this episode is for you. Stay with us as we dive into the liberation of aging on our own terms. The music swells for a brief moment and then settles into a rhythmic, steady background beat. You know, Elena, I was thinking about this episode all week. I had a moment recently, a very human moment, at a wedding. I was surrounded by women in their 50s and 60s, and I noticed something heartbreaking. Every time someone pulled out a camera, there was this collective gasp. Women were pulling their skin back at the temples, hiding behind flower arrangements, or asking, "Wait, is there a filter on this?" It wasn't about capturing a memory. It was about managing an image. It made me realize how much of our mental energy is consumed by this youth performance.
It's everywhere, Julia. In my clinic, I see it from a physiological perspective. Women come in and they don't just want to feel healthy, they want to stop the clock. They ask for hormone replacement therapy not because they're struggling with debilitating hot flashes, but because they've heard it might keep their skin from sagging. There's this underlying fear that if they look 52, they've somehow failed a test. I remember when I hit 50, I felt that sting too. I looked at my hands one day while I was writing a prescription and thought, whose hands are these? They were my mother's hands, and for a split second, I felt a rush of panic.
That's the invisibility factor, isn't it? We've been conditioned to believe that a woman's value is tied to her reproductive bloom and her aesthetic proximity to youth. When that starts to shift, the psyche goes into a state of mourning. We aren't just mourning our smooth skin, we're mourning the way the world used to look at us. My patients often tell me they feel like they're becoming ghosts. They walk into a room and they feel like they've been muted. So the reaction is to turn up the volume. More procedures, more clothes that don't feel like them, more effort to stay in the game.
And that effort is exhausting. From a health standpoint, that constant stress, the cortisol spike of feeling not enough, is actually more damaging to our longevity than a few wrinkles could ever be. We are living in a culture that sells us the anti-aging dream, which is essentially a multi-billion-dollar industry built on the foundation of our insecurities. They want us to believe that aging is a disease to be cured, rather than a natural, biological evolution.
A disease to be cured. That's a powerful way to put it. And when we treat aging as a pathology, we stop living in the present. We're always looking back at who we were or looking forward to the next fix. I want to talk about the pleasing aspect of this. For decades, many of us have been good girls. We've pleased our parents, our partners, our bosses, and our children. Now, at 50, we're being told we have to please the male gaze or the societal gaze by staying young. Resistance, to me, starts with the realization that we don't owe anyone youthfulness.
Exactly. Let's break down what's actually happening biologically, because I think understanding the why can take away some of the shame. Around 50, we're usually in the thick of the menopausal transition. Estrogen levels are dropping. Estrogen is what kept our skin plump, our hair shiny, and our fat distributed in certain ways. When it leaves, the body reorganizes. Our metabolism slows down, not to spite us, but because our bodies are trying to conserve energy and protect our bones and brain in a new way. It's a sophisticated recalibration. But the mind interprets that recalibration as loss. I see so many women who feel betrayed by their bodies. They say, I'm eating the same, I'm exercising the same, but my body is changing. And then the self-criticism starts. I'm lazy, I'm letting myself go. That internal dialogue is toxic. We need to shift the conversation from how do I stop this to how do I support this new version of myself?
I love that, supporting the new version. In my practice, I try to pivot the focus to functional longevity. I don't care if you have crow's feet. I care if your bones are strong enough to hike the Grand Canyon when you're 70. I care if your heart is healthy enough to handle the excitement of a new romance or a new business venture. When we focus on what the body does rather than how it looks, the pressure starts to lift. But I know it's easier said than done when every billboard tells you otherwise.
It's a constant battle of deprogramming. I often give my clients an exercise. Stop looking in the magnifying mirror. You know the one, the 10x zoom that shows every pore and fine line. Nobody sees you at 10x zoom. We are the only ones who scrutinize ourselves that harshly. When we do that, we lose the whole. We see a wrinkle, but we don't see the kindness in our eyes. We see a sagging jawline, but we don't see the strength in the face that has survived losses, raised families, and built careers.
And let's talk about the anti-aging marketing. It's so clever. They use words like rejuvenate, restore, and defy. It's a language of war. Defy aging? You might as well try to defy the sunset. It's going to happen. The question is, are you going to watch the sunset and enjoy the colors? Or are you going to spend the whole evening crying because the sun is going down?
That's a beautiful metaphor, Elena. And the colors of this stage of life are actually quite vibrant if we allow ourselves to see them. There's a psychological liberation that comes with 50. Most of the women I work with report a 0 Fs given threshold that they finally cross. They stop caring about petty dramas. They stop trying to fit into social circles that drain them. But there's a conflict. They feel internally liberated, yet externally pressured to look like they haven't aged. It's a cognitive dissonance. You feel like a wise, powerful queen on the inside, but you feel like you have to look like a princess on the outside.
I see that conflict every day. I had a patient last week, a CEO of a major company, brilliant woman. She told me she felt fraudulent because she was getting fillers. She said, "Elena, I'm a feminist, I'm strong, but I'm scared that if I look my age, people will think my brain is slowing down too." That's a real fear. Ageism is the partner of the pressure to stay young. We aren't just fighting vanity, we're fighting for our relevance in a world that equates youth with competence. And that's where the resistance comes in. Resistance isn't just about refusing Botox. If you want Botox and it makes you feel good, that's your choice. True resistance is refusing to let your self-worth be dictated by those procedures. It's about being honest. If we all pretend we just woke up like this at 55, we're gaslighting the younger generation and each other. Resistance is saying, yes, I've aged, and look how much more interesting I've become.
Let's dive into some of the myths that keep us trapped in this cycle. One of the biggest ones I hear is, it's all downhill after 50. Biologically, that's just not true. Yes, things change, but many women find that their energy levels actually stabilize once they're through the hormonal roller coaster of perimenopause. Their libido can actually increase because they're no longer worried about pregnancy or pleasing a partner in a specific way. They know their own bodies better.
That's a huge myth, the idea that the pilot light goes out. In reality, for many women, the 50s are a sexual reawakening. But you can't get there if you're too busy worrying about whether the lighting in the bedroom is flattering for your thighs. The most attractive thing at any age is presence, being in your body, not observing it from the outside. Another myth is that we have to fix everything. Fix the gray hair, fix the weight gain around the middle. From a medical perspective, that menopausal middle is actually the body's way of producing a little bit of extra estrogen through fat cells to protect our bones. It's a survival mechanism. When we try to starve it away, we're fighting our own biology's attempt to keep us safe. I wish every woman could hear that. Your body is trying to protect you, not betray you. Now, let's address a question I get a lot. How do I stop trying to please everyone? This is the liberation part of our title. By 50, we've spent decades being the anchors for everyone else. How do we start pleasing ourselves? It starts with boundaries, doesn't it? Saying no to the things that drain our vitality. If a certain social media account makes you feel like garbage, unfollow it. If a friend constantly makes backhanded compliments about your appearance, distance yourself. We have to curate our environment to support our evolution. It also involves a grief process. We have to grieve the younger self. It's okay to look at a photo from 20 years ago and feel a pang of nostalgia. That girl was lovely, but she's gone. And if you spend all your time trying to resurrect her, you're essentially ignoring the woman who is standing here now, the one who has so much more to say. I tell my patients to literally talk to their reflection. Look in the mirror and say, I see you. I see the work you've done. I see the life you've lived, and I'm not going to apologize for it anymore. That's so powerful, Julia. I started doing something similar. Instead of looking for what's wrong in the mirror, I look for signs of life. Those lines around my mouth, those are from laughing with my kids and my friends. The furrow in my brow, that's from years of intense focus, helping patients and solving problems. My body is a map of my life. Why would I want a blank map? A blank map means you haven't gone anywhere. I love that. A blank map means you haven't gone anywhere. That should be on a t-shirt. But let's be real for a second. The pressure is intense. We see celebrities who are 55 and look like they're 30. We know they have chefs, trainers, and world-class surgeons, but the subconscious mind still compares. How do we break the comparison trap? We have to remember that looking young is their full-time job. It's a professional requirement for them. For the rest of us, our job is to live our lives. When I see a celebrity who looks ageless, I try to look at them with compassion rather than envy. I think about the immense pressure they must be under to never, ever show a sign of humanity. It must be a very gilded, very lonely cage.
And it's a cage that's being sold to us as freedom, the freedom to not age. But true freedom is the ability to age and not lose your mind over it. It's the freedom to be messy, to be imperfect, and to be real. I think the more we talk about this openly, the more we admit, hey, I felt insecure today, or I felt invisible at the grocery store, the more we take the power away from those feelings. Shame dies when it's spoken. We've talked a lot about the internal work, but what about the practical side? When women ask me, Elena, what should I do to age well? I tell them 3 things: sleep, strength, and soul. Sleep, because that's when the body repairs. Strength, because muscle mass is the currency of longevity. Lift heavy things. And soul, because if you don't have a reason to get up in the morning, no amount of vitamins or creams will help. Sleep, strength, and soul. I love that. From the psychological side, I'd add curiosity, community, and compassion. Stay curious about the world so you don't get stuck in your ways. Find a community of women who are also evolving. There is nothing more healing than a group of women laughing about their chin hairs and their triumphs in the same breath. And compassion. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to your best friend. We're coming toward the end of our time today, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface. The pressure to be young at 50 is a symptom of a society that doesn't know how to value wisdom. But we know. We know that the women listening to this are the most powerful demographic on the planet. We have the life experience, we often have more financial stability than we did in our 20s, and we finally have the perspective to know what really matters.
If you're listening to this and you've been feeling the weight of these unreal standards, I want you to take a deep breath. Let it out. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a woman to be celebrated. The liberation we're talking about isn't a destination you reach. It's a choice you make every morning. The choice to say, I am here, I am this age, and I am enough. Your body is changing. Julia is right. And it's not the end of your story. It's a new chapter, one where you get to write the rules. No more pleasing everyone else at the expense of yourself. No more hiding. You are not alone in this. There is a whole movement of us, women who are choosing to evolve rather than just age. We're reclaiming the word mature. We're reclaiming our space in the world, and we're doing it together. Thank you for joining us on this episode of She's Evolving. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear these words today. Let's start a ripple effect of self-acceptance. Follow us for more conversations like this, where we tackle the messy, beautiful reality of being a woman in the second half of life. Until next time, keep evolving, keep resisting the unreal, and most importantly, keep being you. The acoustic guitar music returns, slightly more upbeat this time, conveying a sense of hope and energy. The sound lingers for a few seconds before fading out completely. See you in the next episode.
Julia, there is a specific myth I want to dismantle right now. The idea that our biological use-by date somehow expires the moment we hit 50. It's a narrative that has been sold to us for generations, but it's becoming increasingly aggressive in the digital age. We aren't just expected to age gracefully anymore. We are expected to not age at all. In my clinic, I see women who are in peak physical health, women who are stronger and more capable than they were in their 20s, yet they feel like they are failing because they have a few lines around their eyes or because their skin doesn't have the same elasticity it did 30 years ago. We've conflated health with looking like a teenager, and those two things are vastly different.
You're so right, Elena. And that leads us to one of the most pervasive myths, the idea that the desire to be attractive is synonymous with the desire to look young. I often ask my patients, who are you trying to look young for? Usually the answer isn't myself, it's society, my partner, or my employer. There's a deep-seated fear that if we look our age, we lose our currency, we lose our seat at the table. This creates a psychological state of hyper-vigilance, where women are constantly scanning themselves for flaws. It's exhausting. It's like a second full-time job that pays $0 and costs a fortune in mental health. We need to shift the conversation from how do I look younger to how do I feel more vital and present in the body I have today?
Exactly. And speaking of vitality, let's talk about the libido myth. There's this misconception that once you hit 50, your sex life is over, or that you should no longer be a sexual being. Biologically, yes, the drop in estrogen and progesterone changes things. It can affect lubrication and the speed of arousal, but change does not mean disappearance. In many ways, women over 50 report a deeper sense of sexual liberation because the fear of pregnancy is gone and they finally know their own bodies. When we succumb to the pressure of trying to look 25 in the bedroom, we lose the intimacy of the present moment. We are too busy worrying about the lighting or the angle of our bodies to actually feel the pleasure.
That's a huge point, Elena. The spectatoring effect, where you're watching yourself perform instead of experiencing the moment, is a direct result of these unrealistic beauty standards. It's the same with fashion and personal style. How many times have we heard the phrase age appropriate? It's a policing mechanism. It's a way of saying, you are now in the invisible category, so please dress accordingly. But resistance starts with the realization that we don't owe anyone youthfulness. We owe ourselves authenticity. There is a profound liberation in the word no. No, I will not spend my Saturday morning at the dermatologist getting fillers I don't want. No, I will not apologize for the gray hair that shows I've lived half a century of life. No, I will not try to squeeze into a version of myself that no longer fits.
I love that. And from a medical perspective, the liberation we're talking about actually has physiological benefits. When we stop obsessing over these impossible standards, our cortisol levels, the stress hormone, actually drop. Chronic stress over our appearance is a silent killer. It leads to inflammation, poor sleep, and weight gain around the midsection, which ironically makes us feel even worse about our bodies. By letting go of the youth trap, we are actually doing more for our longevity than any expensive cream ever could. We're choosing a life of movement, bone density, and heart health over a life of aesthetic perfection.
It's about reclaiming our time and our energy. Think about the mental bandwidth we regain when we stop trying to please everyone else's gaze. This is the space 4 of our lives, as I like to call it, the era of reflection and true self-actualization. We've spent decades being the good daughter, the diligent worker, the nurturing mother. Now, at 50 and beyond, it's finally time to be the woman. Just her, without the qualifiers. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I see you, I respect you, and I'm not going to force you to be someone you were 30 years ago. It's a powerful transition, isn't it? Moving from how do I look to how do I want to spend my life? As we wrap up this conversation, I want to remind everyone listening that your body is not a project to be fixed. It is a vessel that has carried you through every heartbreak, every triumph, and every ordinary Tuesday of your life. It deserves your gratitude, not your judgment. If you're feeling the weight of the world telling you to stay young,
Remember that young is a temporary state, but wisdom and vitality are choices we make every single day.
Beautifully said, Elena. And to our listeners, if you felt a spark of recognition today, if you felt a little bit lighter hearing that you don't have to keep up the charade, then we've done our job. Resistance isn't always a loud protest. Sometimes it's just the quiet act of being comfortable in your own skin. It's choosing a walk in the sun over a day in the waiting room of a plastic surgeon. It's laughing loudly, even if it deepens your laugh lines. You are evolving, you are growing, and you are becoming a version of yourself that is far more interesting than the 20-year-old version ever was. Thank you for being with us on this journey today. This conversation doesn't end here. It continues in your own lives, in the way you speak to yourselves in the morning, and in the way you support the women around you. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear that she is enough, exactly as she is. We are stronger when we reject these patterns together. We truly are. Don't forget to follow She's Evolving for more honest conversations about this incredible stage of life. We have so much more to explore together, from career pivots to the changing dynamics of our friendships. Until next time, keep evolving, keep resisting the shoulds, and most importantly, keep being kind to the woman you see in the mirror. Stay healthy, stay curious, and remember, the best version of you isn't in the past. She's right here, right now. Goodbye for now, everyone. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk soon.